Okay, so let's work on the lab. I know some of you already got your Linux loaded, fired up and ready to go. So we're gonna use Kali but before you start your Kali machine, make sure that we download, and after download, we extract, right? Right click, 7-zip, extract. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add my virtual machine, but make sure you give it more RAM and processor, because otherwise it's either gonna crash at the end when we're using one of the applications that do cross-site scripting, or it's just gonna be crawling slow and you don't want that. Okay, so I add the machine, I browse to the folder, I selected the .vbox file, change the settings by clicking settings, go to system, and for the RAM, you can give it more. I mean, you know what, I'm gonna give it 10,000 because 8,000 is okay, right? We have a little juice in our system, so we can go a little bit more. You can give it at least 8,000 for 8,000 meg. And then the processor, you can up it to 4. You don't want it at dual because it's gonna be slow. And then we're gonna click OK. Once you have your settings changed, then you're gonna click Start. So I made sure that you give it a little bit more RAM. So at least 8 gig and at least 4 core. Okay, so we want to have 4 core for processor at least, but you don't want to max it out either, because on mine it shows 16 core. So if you want to go a little higher, you can. So after we log into Kali, we're going to use Zaproxy. I use the same one, but different procedure for my CIS41A class. Some of you have taken the class, so you've seen it before. This is known as Z-Attack Proxy. It is made for pen testing. It does have a graphical user interface. It's nice. It's always a good thing when we see graphical user interface and security tool, but it does take a little bit more resource. Zaproxy is cool because it has a lot of different feature and it has different functionality with those features. So you don't have to use it for one specific thing, like certain tools is only in to do certain things. This you can have a vast amount of things. So it's like more an all-in-one kind of catch. But it's mostly for browser and web application type of assessment. So if you're pen testing web application or browser, it's ideal. You can set it up as a proxy, so it can act as a middle point between the client system and the server itself. But make sure that we run the updates first for our Linux. So I'm gonna log in. Once you're logged into Kali, open up your terminal. And we're gonna do an update. So sudo apt update. Put in your password. So we're gonna set ourselves up as a target, and we're gonna use the tool to attack ourselves, right? We don't have a DNS. So even when we set up the damn vulnerable web app, it is only linked to our local IP, our loopback. After I have ran my updates through the terminal, I'm going to install Zaproxy.
So, yes. Okay, good. So my question now is, we do this one instead of these.
You do all of them,
In order?
yes, in order. Yeah, so we run the updates and then we install the damn vulnerable web app. And then you want to start it. So it's gonna open up the browser. So, oh, I didn't install that. So yeah, I want to install it. So once you install DVWA, then we can start the service. It's gonna ask for my password before it opens it up. And notice that this is the port that it uses, 42001, that follows by the colon here, and then our loopback address. So I had initiated my web app, which is vulnerable, through the DVWA package. So this is really good if you use it for testing. We've seen this before. Then I'm gonna go back to my terminal and install Zaproxy. Once you install it, you know, if it's already installed, you don't have to pull it again, but you can check which Zaproxy. If it finds the package, it'll tell you. If it's not there, then the command won't work.
So in order to install it says to go down to a different window or a terminal?
Yeah, so just click the black square again, open a second one. Yeah, so if you want to not close this, right? Or if your terminal is being used by another application that's running, you can open another terminal. Just click the black square.
All right.
Yeah. Then we're gonna do a sudo apt install Zaproxy. I thought I did this. And then Kali. So it's already there. You can also check. Kali put everything in their menu with options for pen testing. So web application analysis has quite a few here. Burp Suite's there, Zap is there. And then, but Zap, you can also add the main package also include OWASP Zap, but you know, Zaproxy is the commonly known application. And then your crawl. Okay. And then I use this for the Python class. But you know, you would see, and this list changed time to time. So whenever the tool becomes not usable, Kali will remove it. Okay. So we try to install that. It's already there. So we're gonna do Zaproxy. So you would know that it is, oh, my Zoom just crashed. Like this. Sorry, give me a second for it to reconnect. Something's going on with their network. It dropped my wireless for some reason. Let me pause. So where we left off was we just installed Zaproxy. And we're gonna run Zaproxy. So for me, I ran Zaproxy. So it took me to the main menu and now I'm typing in the URL. So this is where your target's gonna go. And if it's the first time you know, you might not have a list of target because it does save the information on the system. So you just need to put it in. Yeah, you can update it if you want. You should.
Yeah.
That will take like a few minutes. So you would select all the options and then leave some unchecked. Oh, it's fine. You're already in automated scan, so you're gonna just proceed to step. If it doesn't ask you to update, you don't have to update. Step 23 is where you're at. Okay, so once you put this in, you can also click select by finding it. You just click the attack button. Okay. So, oh. HTTP 127.0. I didn't like that. For 2001. There it goes. Okay, so when you see this, you're gonna see all the initiated requests that is being submitted to your web application that you activated with DVWA. With that, you would see that it's submitting, it's injecting some of the code into it. So you see some posts, right? Like for login, and then you would also see some get. So get is more of just displaying the website that's serving the content. So you would see some continuous login attempt right here, see? So at this point, after I click the attack button, I start to see some action. I can screenshot this. And you can pause it by clicking stop. So this is an active form of attack. So that means that your system, the web server as a target would keep logs of it. It would keep all the attempt information. Okay. Now, while that's being done, I can click alerts. And this is gonna build out as it is performing the attack. So you would see the value change, but a few minutes in, you should be able to see the alerts. Earlier,
It says, actively scanning, done over.
yes. So you need to, okay, but you're not, so expand your, no, not that. So click the lightning strike thing, the lightning symbol. That's your application, and you need to click the middle button. Okay. So now you can click on alerts. What happened to your screen? Oh, because you can't have it this way. It's gonna block. So we need to show the tabs are there. The response tab. Are you supposed to see? You must have closed some of the panes, so you can't see all of that. You can see the alert, but you can't see what's inside it. Okay, so come back here. And then rerun tab. see if it's gonna put it back to the default. Okay, this is what you're supposed to see. See how there's panel here?
Yes.
Okay, so click start. And then here, you just click like automated scan and then type it in the 127 number. Okay, so redo that step.
Now, if I go look at my page, my instruction sheet, if I minimize this. it will
Yeah,
work.
you have to minimize it, or you can just drag it to the left or right like this. If you do it like me, if you had it on the top, and then you should be able to see, you can drag it. Okay. So we would be able to see the alert information. So the whole point in this is a pen testing tool. So it would tell you the flaws in your web application. So the alert tells you the issue that you would have with the web application. So if you're looking at the absence of security token, these are the type of, if you go through each one, it has 34, I guess, tasks that was submitted to assess this, right? So it tells you that the risk is medium, the confidence is low. And then if you go to the description information, it would tell you about, some general information also about what that vulnerability is or potential exploit information. Okay, so I would refer to the description to answer additional questions for that. So are there anti-CSRF tokens? Yes, right? We see that. What type can be performed? What type can be performed for the DVWA? If you look into here, it tells you that it did the cross-site request forgery, cross-site scripting, so XSS, one-click attack, session writing, confused deputy, and CSRF. So it checked for those things. And then we can go back to the alert. You can just minimize this and you should be able to see. Remember we talked about directives earlier for our content policy. So content security policy, it examined that, and then there are a few areas that it tells you what's wrong, and you can drag this left or right or expand your screen. So there are CSP issues with our web application because it's very vulnerable. It didn't really have any kind of policy implemented. So it tells you that the confidence is high, the risk is medium. And this is a good way for, it tells you in general what CSP is. So there are wildcard directive issues, style source issues, and then security policy header is not set. So that means that this particular web application can be prone to cross-site scripting, right? And other things. So what risk level is shown, you do have like a few area, but you can look at the header section. And then what type of attacks can be performed. Well, without CSP, we already talked about earlier in the lecture what cross-site scripting can be done. So, but you look at the description, it'll tell you the type of attack. Then we're going to go back And then you can scroll down. There's same site cookie without same site attribute. There's cookie with invalid same site attribute. So there are a couple of things that would be related to same site cookies. And then there is JavaScript source file inclusion problem. So with this tool, you can see that it's examining like potential issues that comes from the lack of or the vulnerabilities that we have on the web app. Okay. So look at the invalid same site. I misspelled this. Same site cookies. So we can go here. Invalid same site attribute. So it says a cookie has been set with an invalid same site attribute value. That means that the cookie can be sent for cross-site requests. So the countermeasure, so this same site attribute is effective for countermeasure. So we need to fix the same site issue to reduce forgery and cross-site scripting, right? So check the risk level. So once you click on it, you would see the risk level, write down the answer, and then look at the description or the suggestion in the description for
Number
attack.
26B. What did you get for that?
When you look at the 20s, you have to click alert,
Yes.
and then you are going to click on the CSP header not set. On the right pane, if you scroll up, you would see all the answer. The risk, the confidence, and the description will tell you what that is.
When to go, submitted my stuff.
Okay, your last name?
However,
Okay, thank you. Any question? Did you find it?
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, so you have to look over here, use the scroll bar. The outside scroll bar, yeah. There you go. You should be able to answer. So the medium. Okay, it says that's the result. What type of attack can be performed? And then scroll down. You have to read that description section. Okay?
Yes.
Other questions were okay? All right. Yeah, so when you read the description, if you go here, right, you gotta use the scroll bar and then the inside scroll bar to scroll up or down. It tells you the type of attack that can be used without the CSP. Okay, on the right. In the description. Yeah, so same site for the same site, if you scroll down on the alert, you can find the invalid same site attribute cookie. And then the same thing, just gotta scroll up and down and find the answer. So the whole point is we're gonna address the risks that are higher, right? First, we can't ignore the low risk, but we shouldn't ignore the low risk. We can, but we shouldn't. We just need to address things that are higher first, prioritize that. And then, so you gotta take a look at what the assessment here for the risk level, and then how that will be impacting overall, okay? So for cookie poisoning, you can go down to cookie poisoning, and it tells you that the confidence is low. This is only informational, it's not a risk, right? That means that it's just some information that it wants to tell you about security. And I only include the few things that really tie back to what we were talking about in the lecture, but there are other areas that you can also look. Okay? All right, so once we go through, look up the information from the alert and write down the answer, we are going to go to the tools menu and look at the authenticated tester. So this will take a little bit of time as well. So in tools right here, you would see the authentication tester or control T. And then once you already have your server added from the first step, you can just click select and click on it. Okay, or you can type it in. But we want it, you can do this site or you can add it with the login using vulnerability / brute force, whatever, right? The page itself, but it can. So basically we are going to test the authentication. So it's gonna do attack with passwords right here. Once that's selected, click test. Oh, for username, type admin. And then for password, you can just try password. So it's gonna open the page. Right? Try to log in. I can also do, let me try vulnerability / brute. Let's test again. Because for this site, the login page is actually /vulnerability /brute. So it passed that time. So the extension that you have for the login is important. Remember what we talked about. Some web application would have a slightly different URL, even though it's still in the same domain. It has extension or directory that they would use for login reasons. So if you use the full URL for login, that is more effective. So admin and password, you can try. That should pass. But if we try it with a different password, like admin, we can test it. It should fail. Yep. So the result you would see down here. So that all that is it just take your password and plug it into the website. So if we don't directly want to interact with the website by typing in username and password, you can use the credential tester this way. Right? So it gives you like one platform to work with instead of switching back and forth. It automates it a little bit. Okay, any question? Okay. So when we did the authentication tester, you can try it with the full URL. Take a screenshot when it should pass, because this is the right password for it. So make sure that we have the full URL, and then we do admin and type in password. And then click test. So it's gonna open up the browser, plug in the username and password. And it should show pass here. You see the picture? Yeah. Oh, it's yours. It's wrong. Password. It's just, yeah, it's not consistent. So if it shows fail, but you type in the right password, try it again. It should pass. It's not accurate. But I'm just saying, you don't really need to use this. It's just showing you how to use different feature. Okay, so once we have that, then we're gonna look at Zaproxy right pane and then to see if you have a session ID. Now, you don't have to use Zaproxy to be able to see this. Did I have you guys do the active scan?
Find fail.
Yeah, it's fine. If it shows fail, like when I tested at home earlier, it failed, right? But it should pass. Ideally, that's the right password for it. Yeah. Your scan still should run. Okay. So we would see the server information here, right? This is part of its banner. And then for the next part, let me see if you can see the session ID. Yeah, it shows payload information timestamp, but there is also a yeah, if you click on the top, if you click the actual server itself to expand, this might come up. Oh, yeah, the code for it will come up. So it's kind of like viewing the development tools in the browser. So you see some code of it here. You might be able to find PHP information. Yeah, so the PHP session ID is here. I said lower right, but it depends on the view that you have. So you would see your session ID there. Okay. So on the left under site, if you click on it, right, you would see this and your session ID is located. The expiration, it's normally like a few days from today, like 3 days, I think they have it set. So you would see that my session doesn't expire until Saturday, April 20th, right? Why is this important for the attacker? Well, if I can capture that session, then I can reuse it until it expires, correct? So you want to focus on when it's issue and when it's expire. But you see here that the cache control and cache validation information, that was old, right? Because DVWA is an old product, so 2009, it's way expired. But your session is still available until the 20th. Okay, then we're gonna look at active scan. Well, once you hit the attack at the beginning, the attack button for automated attack, the active scan should also scan. So you don't have to run it again, but you can access it through tools. And then you can use active scan. Or if it's already scanning, you can use the tab to see the active scan. Okay, you can always add it too by clicking the plus.
I accidentally, got out of the application.
Yeah, so you have to repeat the step where you just use the terminal and type in Zaproxy. And it will reopen again. So if you click active scan, you just select the server, or you can type in your target URL. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and click select. And then here you can do other things, right? We can do authentication tests. And then we can start scan. But it should already been actively scanning when you automated the attack. Some stuff you see 404, the majority of them are gonna be 200. That means successfully communicated. That means the server is responsive to the request, submission, and just serving the page. So screenshot that. But when you run the scan, it's gonna open up the active scan pane. You can also filter your messages to set your filter. And then if you want to pause or stop, you can click that here. There are also like panels. Remember earlier, Gabe was saying, I don't see the bottom part. You can also change the view for the pane size here. So if you click the wrong one, you might only have the main one. So this is my default pane. This can be extracted and put into files for later view. So, and then you can also bring that in using the import mechanism. Okay, so we're gonna use Ajax Spider. So we're gonna click Tools, and then we're gonna open up Ajax Spider. The starting point, we can select our site and click Select. And then you just start. But if you want like more specific subdomain of that domain, you can also do that. You just have to add them, the appropriate target. So earlier, remember how in our lecture note and our assignment, we talked about how to use crawlers. So this is Ajax Spider, where it is web oriented, and it's gonna give you similar assessment. You're gonna see like here, you would see alerts that would be specific to the vulnerabilities. So as you add the tools, it's gonna add the tabs for you, and you can also click the plus sign. Okay. So after a bit, we can stop it, and then you can take a look at your level of alerts. Right here, it would say like medium or high, or so if you pause it, then you can click the tab. I think it will be able to sort it for you, but you should be able to see whether it's low. I think the highest for this one for the web app is medium. If there's a high, it might be just one entry. Very minimal. So let me pause it now. So click the stop button next to crawled URLs. It might like have a process that's over. So it might have a couple more lines because it's software. But you would see, you can scroll up. So most of these are gonna be, most of the alerts are gonna be medium. Some are low, but the highest level is gonna be medium. So you can click the highest level tab and it will ascending sort it from low to high. Okay. Then we're gonna, now after all of the stuff that you find, you need to put it into some kind of file or report, right? So we're gonna do report, generate a report, and you can compare too. So let's say that I do a mid-year audit of my web's applications, and then I do the end of the year audit. So you can save the report and then you can compare the two, right? To see if our improvement in security for the end of the year has reduced some of the alerts area. So that's useful. And if you use everything for the default template here, what it's gonna do is these are some of the website that's already added to the tool itself. So we can just generate the report and it's gonna open up the HTML file like this, which is nice. And you can store it locally, but it would give you a link also for it. So the alerts, as far as we ran it, but if we had it run longer, this can also be longer. So if you scroll down, it's going to give you the percentage down here. So for me, it's mostly medium, right? About 3.8% from how long we had let it scan. So you need to scroll down on the report to see the percentage for the confidence percentage. So as an analyst, you have to put all of these numerical values together, right? And then present it to development and explain to them like what areas they need to fix. Okay, so that's your percentage. Okay, so let's do a little bit of SQLMap. So once I'm done with Zaproxy, I can close my report. I think DVWA already started, but I just want to make sure that you had it running. I can go back to here. I can close this. I can close out Zaproxy. And then go to my terminal again. I can restart my web app if I need to. So you just click select and then you find the 127 address. Yeah, so you don't have it, you have to type it in. Yeah, so you type that in and then start spinning. Okay, and if you have a period, then I'll take that back. You're welcome. So DVWA, and then what we're gonna do is we are going to do the wizard. I'm sorry, this is a double dash. Microsoft Word always does this to me. So that if it throws an error, just use double dash. I'll upload this again. So SQLMap -- space -- wizard, okay? And you can do the help, man help option to see all the options. So the wizard is easier because ultimately it gives you like a walkthrough on how to kind of start. So it tells you the first thing you need to do is enter your target. And we are going to use this target. So on the web app, that the package, the DVWA, if you look at this, if you look at some of these are the options, the areas of the application that you can use for testing, like SQL injection is right here. So if you look at the URL at the top, it has SQLI extension after vulnerability instead of earlier we had brute force, right? So that's the URL that we want. So this is where, this is the field that we can inject the code in or the query for SQL in, right? That's the goal. So we're gonna go ahead and paste the URL. And here we just press enter, right? If you want some kind of post data, you can do, you know, dash data, but I just press enter. And then for the difficulty, we can just do 1. Did I specify this? Oh, 2. So we do the medium, and then the enumeration is gonna be 3. So you can adjust this as you need depending on the attack. And then 3 for all. So it's gonna go through and it's gonna give you like some output. And then if you want to quit, you can just do a queue. Notice that it plugs everything in for me. Yes. It's gonna maintain the number of requests that it submits to the web application. And it tells you here, it says user token appears to hold anti-CSRF token. Do you want to do this? Well, there's a token, it's just not effective token. Okay. So wait a few minutes. It's going to give you some information about parameters. Answer that question and then click and take a screenshot. There you go. So it says all tested parameters do not appear to be injectable. Try to increase the value level of risk. So we had it medium earlier. We can try to increase it to like the level of difficulty up if we run it again. And then we can make it a little bit harder, right? Like, so depending on the site, the more secure site is not injectable. Now, if we can't inject SQL, it doesn't mean that it's not, it doesn't mean that it's secure. It just means that maybe the mechanism for SQL injection is working. We might still have to fix some stuff, right? Okay. Any question regarding, and you can, you know, if you do SQLMap -H, you can see a lot of other options you can try, you know, instead of using the wizard, but that's the easiest, simplest way. Next, we're going to talk about BEEF, or Browser Exploitation Framework. Similar to what you've seen with Metasploit, but BEEF focus on web application and browser exploitation. So good for cross-site request forgery. So I'm going to show you how you can set it up. This would be fully worked if we have another virtual machine like the Windows, and then, you know, get it networked and click on it like what we've seen in the other lab. But I want to show you how you can set up the link, and then the user would click the link and they would get hooked into that, and then you can control their browser session. So once that's done, it's already everything else is easy. Okay. So important things that you want to know about BEEF. This is used really, it's good for like pen testing and how good your browser configuration and your user awareness and security is. It's important. What it's going to give you is it's going to give you a hook, and it's using JavaScript. So it's going to give you a URL, and you want to embed that URL into something that the user would click on. So once a user click on it, they would get hooked into that script, right? We talked about that in the lecture, and then you can control their activities. So it talks about that here. You can use their get start documentation to be able to do this. And it goes into that it's gonna manage the logs, so it keeps all the activity. And I took this from their website, so you can always refer to their documentation for this. So the requester allows you to use manual crafted requests that you would submit through the hooked browser. And that's basically it. Okay, so you can see the get started page. So if you haven't updated, which we did, you don't have to do step 55, but if you start out with beef, you have to run the updates. Otherwise, it would not work. And it would not work with DVWA already in there. So we want to close out the browser session. And you can also do DVWA and hit stop. So that will end our vulnerable web app. Then we are going to do beef cross-site scripting. We're going to install it. Then we would do Kelly. So once that's installed, we simply, you need to be at root level to run this. Otherwise, you have to do chmod, right? 777, and then the file or the directory where the package is installed. But the easiest for us is to do sudo, or you can do sudo su and then run beef, install and then run beef. Package is a little bit bigger, so make sure we read, also we see the requirements for install, but with our virtual machine, it should be okay. We're gonna go ahead and execute the exploit. Here, the first time you use it, you have to make a user password. So the default user is gonna be beef always. And I just make Callie so it's easy for us to remember. And what it's giving you here is, this is your, let's go up a little bit. This is your web UI, the interface. So this is how you log in as the user beef. And the password that you made, which is Callie, don't save. So it's gonna be here. Now, after the user click on the hooked browser link, it's gonna provide you with that here. And then the information I provided earlier, the logs are gonna be tracked here. And the hooked system are gonna be your zombies. Okay? So if I don't have access to this, so this is your login, right? This is your service. But if you click on the demo page information, it's gonna say this. And you can click on advanced demo page so it looks more realistic, because when I look at this, I already know that like I'm being hooked for something. So here. So ideally, if we're hosting this page, we want to put realistic image, right? We don't want to just put meat pictures on there. But this is just a template sample. So that means that the index file have images of this. So the hooked URL is this right here. Okay? But you can modify this using the template that was given. Okay, so see their get started page, and they would talk about how you can fix that. Okay. So is that okay? So this is the URL that you would use to embed into something that the user can click. So let's say that we copy this and then we open another browser session, another tab. It's confusing sometimes when you are you attack yourself, right? You can open this up. See how it tells me? It says that, oh, it's already being used, so I have to close it. So it's only able to generate one request at a time. So on your terminal, you should see the source URL. That's how you use to log in. And what is the hook? The hook is the demo URL that you saw. This is the hook. And then the login was the source URL. That's how you can look at your control. This one. See how when I access it, it shows it right here? It shows that I'm using the Linux and then the IP address that I'm, because I open another tab and I paste in the demo URL, right? And I paste go. If you go back to the control, it shows the log of it. So what they do is they would get you to click on it, right? And then they would then have your information, your system information, and then they would be able to execute additional script to do things on your browser. There's more to Beef, but I want you to at least get started with that. Maybe if we have time later, we'll do more.
When you close the browser, does it pretty much eliminate the
Yeah, because it's
aspect?
online, right? So if you want to set it up for offline, there is additional feature that you can set it offline, but remember that you have commands. This is why it's a framework, is because the exploit is already built in. You see? So you can add additional things to whatever that you're doing with this system that got hooked. And then if you want to intervene, you can set up a proxy. So once you add additional, so commands is going to give you additional controllers to your hook system. And your hook system doesn't have to be like a PC that's accessing the browser. It could be other things. You can use Beef for other areas. Okay. And then your started page, they have that here, so. And if you read further, it talks about each of those tabs and then how some commands module works. And the way that you use it is you would use beef-m and then the module name in the terminal. But it's all documented. Okay. So we saw a little bit of Beef. This is a long one. So Wapiti. So we're gonna restart our, I'm gonna close these. Close that. So we're gonna do DVWA start. So reopen our DVWA. Then what we're gonna do is we are going to run the help option so you can see. But on this one, if you don't do the V2, it's just less verbose to show. You can still definitely run this, and you need a lot of juice performance, system performance for this, because it's gonna run simultaneous attacks. So I'll do the help. So it gives you some option right here, right? We can do internal endpoints. You can do external endpoints. We can do, you can put down a certain version, you can set it up for a certain time period. There's so many more. So all of those are just parameters for the application. So it's gonna plug that in when it executes the function. This can also be used with as API. Same thing with Beef and all the other ones. Most of them are written in web-based and also sometimes Python language with RESTful or REST framework. Then we're going to run this. And as you see, it's scrolling by, you would see like all the posts and they get like what you've seen in some of the other applications. So it does submit requests to the web server or the web application. And then it's using token. So sometime like you see cross-site scripting. So it's doing that in various areas here. Okay, but cross-site scripting here, it's probably be able to do that with DOM, reflected and store, but some of the other areas like insecure captcha, it might not. So you would see that it's gonna do like the stored into the field here, and then the reflected with this, and then the DOM, it's gonna do it with the language, because DOM can also be used with like the customized of languages on the website itself. Like if you have Spanish or English or, you know, Portuguese or whatever. So yeah, so each of these areas is probably going to pass with cross-site scripting, where some of the other areas of our web app, it will not, right? Because there's no mechanism for it to inject and things like that. I'm just gonna let you know, and I give this 10,000, so it's a little bit more speedy. It might be longer than 10 minutes or whatever. So at the end, you're gonna get like a URL or a link, and then when you click on it, you would get a report. And we might not even get there. It all depends on how fast, how soon it's gonna be able to give that to us. I wonder if I give it like 10 core and 16 gig, it's probably a little bit faster in output. I see the difference. My VM crashed like last night when I ran this. I was like, oh, if I give it 4 core with 4 gigs, see how it does. Yeah, it was just crawling at some point and then it crashed. It wasn't even responsive. So I rebooted it. And I mean, it didn't impact the VM itself. And then I added more RAM and more core and I reran it. Seems okay. So if you're testing with virtual machine, just make sure that your host machine has adequate amount of storage and processing power, and then dedicate a lot of it to your VM. Sometimes we run like multiple VMs, so you just gotta keep that in mind. Like you might want to run a couple VMs because you might have multiple targets. You can also do range of targets with most of these applications. I was thinking about the IoT lab for you guys. And I wanted to maybe, the easiest way is we probably should use Pi 0. But the challenge with Pi is to remote into it, you know, to set it up first and then attack it. But they don't allow VNC here. That's what I use when I use Pi sometime, because I don't want to SSH. You can SSH it, but I don't even know I have to ask Caesar at your user, with your user account, if that's doable. So because Pi Zero already have Wi-Fi, and then what we'll do is we'll just make it into some, like a smart device and then attack it. That would be fun, right? Yeah, I built smart devices with my Raspberry class all the time. I used to do that for the summer. Like I would make like, I don't know, onion router that's like automated. Sometimes like lights and blinky things with the kids. But we'll do something quick and easy. Like, we'll set up Raspberry Pi, run something, have it activated, like turn on the module, because it's Debian, and then we'll connect it to our virtual machine. I'm trying to think. Maybe connect it to a wireless. Our machine would then be adapt to a Wi-Fi adapter that connect to a wireless router, and then we'll just attack it. Like at home, if you have like, Alexa at home, you just attack it. I'll see if I can set up something that is like voice control. I've done Alexa with Raspberry Pi before. When I first came here, I helped Trio set up a photo booth that tweets. So it tweets the photo as soon as you take it. Yeah, but the setup for it was taking me too long, so I stopped doing it. Yeah, so I have like I have the camera module, I have all kinds of gadgets. So we can do something fun. We don't have to have a Raspberry Pi, maybe we can set up like a group of it, like, like a range of things, and then we'll just see if we can wirelessly attack it. I think that would be fun. Yeah, I'll think about that. Just how much work we'll have to go into it to prep for it, writing down the instruction, testing it, retesting it. Okay, so let me see.
Been over for a minute now.
So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like, you're gonna hate me. So realistically, we don't control C, right? It will be like a little bit more than an hour, or more. This site is pretty simple, but you have to know that most organization websites are not just this, right? They link to a lot of different things, have a lot of different components, so we have to sit there and scan. But I know it's Thursday, so you can press Control-C to stop it and pause it. If you just screenshot where you left off. If you don't have, so the file path, it's gonna give you like home Cali, and then blah, 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 right? So that at the end of the scan on your terminal, it's gonna show that file path. That file path you're gonna use to open to see your report. And that report is also like HTML based. So you will be able to click on it and have some information. So just screenshot that for 68 and 69. And at home, if you're bored on the weekend, turn on your Kali, turn on your DVWA, just run it. Let it sit there, go have dinner, and then come back and see if it works. Okay, so answer these questions. Upon completing this lab, what did you learn about web server and web application attacks? Which tools will you further explore? These tools are adequate for you to further explore because they have a lot more functionality than what I can give you in the hour and a half.